Officially the low point for the 2022 Twins. At least I hope. I'm going to explain on today's episode of Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast. Today is Wednesday, August 10th, and I'm your gracious host, Nash Walker. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Again, this is Nash Walker. Been running at Twins Daily for 4 seasons. Been hosting this podcast for 3 seasons. And I believe this is the low point of the season for the 2022 Minnesota Twins. I hope it is. It is. To this point, this is the low point of the year for me. I'll explain why. I hope it's the low point. If it's not, that means there's more coming, right? The low point will be when they miss the playoffs at the end of the year. But to this mark in the season, this is their low point. And the reason I say that is not just because they got crushed by the Dodgers in 2 games, and they scored 5 runs tonight. It was 4-4, in the 6th inning, but Dodgers pulled away, very similar to game 1 at Target Field when it was 1-1 going into the 8th, and the Dodgers pulled away. They're just a much better baseball team. I'm not saying that because of this series. Part of it is because I thought they had a chance to win this game tonight coming in, and they did early. Like they looked like they had a chance to win. They were up 4-2 in this game. So it's not just because of tonight. It is about more than tonight. It's the last 67 games for the Twins. The Twins are 30-37 in their last 67 games. Byron Buxton is hurt. He has barely played, and when he does play, he's not in center field. People will comment back to me sometimes or criticize Byron Buxton in the comments or criticize Byron Buxton on Twitter. I see it all the time. This team is so much better with Byron Buxton. Like it's just not even close to the same team without Byron Buxton. You can tell, like offensively, defensively, to the naked eye, it's true. The numbers say it's true. He's the most valuable player on the Twins this year by a lot of metrics. I mean, I know Luis Arraez has been the MVP. I'm not saying Louis has not been the MVP, but Buxton, he's their heart and soul. Like I'll continue to say that until he's not. He is their heart and soul. And when he doesn't play, the team is much worse. They lack a dynamic feel offensively and especially defensively without him. He jumped up, tried to catch a home run ball over the fence in center in San Diego and aggravated his right knee and has been dinged up since then. He's hurt. And it sounds like they're going to try to get him out in the field in Anaheim this weekend. That would be awesome. But he's hurt right now, and he didn't play. He didn't play tonight. He's barely played. Tim Beckham's DHing tonight for the Twins. That tells you what you need to know. The pitching is leaking even with the additions. This is what I feared. You added Michael Fulmer. You added Jorge Lopez. You added Tyler Mahle. And my fear coming in to this post-deadline period for the Twins was it's not going to matter, or they're not going to execute themselves. And if Griffin Jackson is going to give up tanks, if Michael Fulmer is going to give up tanks, Michael Fulmer gave up the first home run he's given up all year to a right-handed hitter tonight. In 112 plate appearances, he's given up 1 home run to a right-handed hitter as Chris Taylor to break a 4-4 tie. If things like that happen, if the guys on the team can't get it done, your additions, it doesn't matter that you made those additions. If Griffin Jackson can't be who he was in the first half, it won't matter. That's why this is a low point. Jackson's been pretty bad, his last handful of outings. Fulmer gives up a homer tonight. Jorge Lopez blew a save. Twins ended up winning that game. But the pitching is leaking even with the additions and the perceived improvements on the pitching side. Still leaking. They're in second place. They're in second place by a full game on Cleveland. And if Cleveland wins Thursday on the Twins off day, Twins have no control Thursday. It'll be a game and a half, and the White Sox are only a game and a half behind the Twins. So, frankly, the Twins are close to third place in the division. They could be in third place by this weekend. That's far from where they've been. I mean, they had a They could have built a big lead here, but they weren't good enough. I think that's what's interesting. When people say the Twins should be up by 10, 15 games on the Guardians because they blew all those games, the Twins weren't good enough to win those games. They weren't deep enough. Their bullpen wasn't good enough. They weren't a good enough team. That's why they're not 8, 9, 10 games above Cleveland or the White Sox. Into August, yes, it's because they blew those games, but the reason they blew those games is because they're not good enough, if that makes sense. If they were good enough, yeah, they'd be 8, 9, and 10 games above 500. It's not just flipping a switch. Their bullpen was such a liability in the first half. They weren't good enough. They just weren't good enough, and that's why they blew those games. They're in second place. They're nearly in third place, and they were just destroyed by the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. It's the low point for me. I'm frustrated about where they're at right now because I was really hoping, and I said on the record on Sunday, this is the most confident I felt in the Twins all season because of the additions they made, but it will not matter if those additions don't come through and perform. If guys currently on the team who were performing before just cease to do so, it won't matter. And that's why it's the low point right now. When you have Jake Cave playing every day, starting against a lefty, an elite lefty, and Tim Beckham is your DH tonight, Cave starting yesterday against Julio Urias, that ain't good. That shows a lack of depth. So how can this be fixed? How can this be fixed? Let's look ahead. It's a frustrating series with the Dodgers. It's been a frustrating 67 games for the Twins. They're 30-37. How can this be fixed? Let's look forward after this word from Liver Health Formula. Did you know the key to sustainable weight loss is through your liver? The liver is the body's metabolic furnace. It's responsible for flushing out harmful toxins and igniting your fat-burning metabolism. But thanks to modern diets rich in unhealthy processed foods and constant exposure to thousands of man-made and environmental toxins, most of us have overworked livers. Thanks to Liver Health Formula by Pure Health Research, Liver Health Formula contains 8 liver-boosting super nutrients like turmeric, beet, and artichoke extract, all of which work together to wake up a sluggish liver and turn it into a toxin-flushing and fat-burning machine. No more bloated belly, no more uncomfortable digestion, no more feeling tired and low on energy all the time. Check out Liver Health Formula now. It's a great, great product for you. You can go to getliverhelp.com/MLB to learn more. That's getliverhelp.com/MLB to try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free and claim your free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Go to getliverhelp.com/MLB now to get started. How can this be fixed? Jeez. Sometimes, I apologize, I hit my little mic filter. Sometimes it's as simple as a schedule shift. And the Twins are at a low point in their season. The reason I say I hope it's the low point is because they could have a low point after these 10 games because they have 10 straight against the Angels, Royals, and Rangers. And they're in Anaheim for 3 this weekend against the Angels. They have the Royals at home for 3, and then the Rangers at home for 4. Those 3 teams combined are 144 and 190 at the end of play Wednesday, essentially 70-win teams when you combine them together. So 10 straight against an average 70-win team for the Twins is how I look at this. And actually, the Royals, they played well against the White Sox this week, but I'm calling them the Kansas City prospects because they don't have Whit Merrifield anymore. They don't have Andrew Benintendi. They're playing a lot of young guys. That's a team that the Twins should beat. If you can't beat the Royals, you're in trouble. If you can't beat the Angels, you're in trouble. If you can't beat the Rangers, you're in even more trouble after those 10. So is it too much to ask for the Twins to go 7-3 in those 10 games? I think if they go 7-3, you look at the White Sox and Guardians, the White Sox have a 4-game set with Houston within that, and they play each other. The Guardians and White Sox play each other. And I believe the Guardians have a tough series as well mixed into that, if I'm not mistaken. So the Twins will have an opportunity, I think, over the next 10. Yes, Guardians have 3 at the Blue Jays this weekend. So while the Twins are in Anaheim, the Guardians will be in Toronto facing the Blue Jays. The Sox will be playing the Tigers at home, but the Sox can't really beat anybody right now. The Sox had a 19-game easy stretch, and they're 8-7 on that. I've said it many times. The team that can beat the bad teams will be the team that wins the Central. If you can win head-to-head matchups and you take care of business against Detroit and Kansas City, you're going to win this terrible division. It really doesn't take that much. We know that. Think of how poorly the Twins have looked now for over 2 months, 7 games below 500, and they're still a game out of first place in the Central. Think of how bad the White Sox have been all year long. They're a game and a half out in the Central, or 2.5 games, excuse me, a game and a half out from the Twins. That's just the nature of the division. That's the nature of the division. If you can take care of business head to head and you beat up on the Royals and Tigers, you're going to be in good shape. So this is a critical 10-game stretch for the Twins. Sometimes you look at a schedule and you say, okay, they have 10 straight against the Astros and the Blue Jays and the Yankees. And a lot of times a team will go 4-6 or 5-5. I think the bigger stretches now are when you have 10 in a row against bad teams like the Twins do here. How do you manage that? Do you go 7-3 or do you go 5-5? Because if the Twins go 5-5, I'm going to be sitting here at the end of the 10-game stretch and I'm going to say, this is the low point. I know I said it 8 days ago. This is the low point now because they went 5-5 against some bad ball clubs. This is critical for them. These next 10 are critical for the Twins because then they have Houston. They got Houston at Houston. They have the Yankees coming up on the schedule at the end or going into September. So they have Houston, and then right after that, they have San Francisco and Boston at home. So a lot of home games coming up as well. 7 of the next 10 at home. I think it is. So that's 10, 13, 16, 19. I want to say it's like 12 or 15 out of the next 19 are at home as well. A lot of home games at Target Field. Hopefully Buxton can get more healthy and you get him in the lineup more often and in center field more often. Because as I said, the Twins are a different team when he's on the field and in the lineup. 7-3 over the next 10. Wow. The Guardians deal with the Blue Jays in Toronto and the White Sox deal with Houston at home for 4. You can retake the lead in this division. And then because the Twins have the most games remaining against the other 2. So if you look at all 3 teams, the White Sox and Guards play each other 6 more times total. The Twins and Guardians play 8 more times, and the Twins and White Sox play 9 more times. They have the most games of the 3 against each opponent. It's still in the Twins' hands. They can fall to third place before they play those teams. They control their own destiny because they have 17 left. 17 of their last 52 are against the Guardians and White Sox. If you win 13 of those, 12 or 13 of those, it's going to be hard to lose the division because neither one of these teams is going to play 600 ball the rest of the way. What has told you that any of these teams are going to play 600 ball through the rest of the season? Nothing has told me that. So what is wrong with the Twins? What's the crux of the issue over the last 67? Because I've had trouble evaluating them at times. What's the issue? Let's break that down after this word from Blue Nile. Blue Nile is the premier jewelry expert. It's the original online jeweler. Since 1999, they've helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Blue Nile is committed to ensuring that the highest ethical standards are observed when sourcing diamonds and jewelry. Whether you're customizing an engagement ring or designing diamond stud earrings, online jeweler Blue Nile will allow you to create a bigger, more brilliant piece than you can imagine at a price you won't find at a traditional jeweler. Not perfect? No problem. 100% satisfaction guarantee. Shop stress-free with guaranteed free shipping and returns. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. What's wrong with the Twins? Well, what's been wrong with the Twins for 20 years is pitching. But whenever a team is underperforming or disappointing, I think the word is disappointing. The White Sox this year, extremely disappointing. Sometimes you're just not good enough. The Tigers just aren't. They don't have enough talent. They don't have enough good players. And you can make that argument about the Twins too. But they have some star power. They have a roster that's capable of doing big things. We've seen that at times, flashes this year, flashes you wouldn't see from the Royals or Tigers because they just don't have that. You can break it down to 2 things, I think, all the time with teams that are disappointing you, whether it's the White Sox or the Twins. It's injuries and ineffectiveness. When you have injuries to your best players, Byron Buxton, injuries in the rotation, Bailey Ober, Josh Winder, injuries for high upside young players, Alex Kirilloff, Royce Lewis, that takes a toll. And it shows up in the depth. A strength the Twins had when they were 11 games over 500 back in mid-May, and they had won 14 of 17 games. A strength that they had as a team was they were deep. Celestino was performing well. Garlick was performing. Ober was performing. Winder was performing. They were getting performances from their depth pieces. The difference now is those guys are either hurt or not performing. And Celestino's part of the not performing group, and Ober and Winder are part of the injured group. So you're seeing it at the bottom of these Twins lineups, especially when Buxton's hurt, when he's not playing. The lineup gets so weak so fast, and with how bad Kepler's been since he's come off the IL, I think Kepler might have to go back on the injured list. If he can't play with the broken pinky toe, send him back to the injured list. Like, he looks horrific. The lineup gets very shallow, very fast, and Carlos Correa is not really doing anything. So basically, when you're watching the Twins right now, these 2 games against the Dodgers, you are watching Luis Robert. You're hoping those 2 and Jose Miranda, those 3. You're hoping those guys get it done. And Gary hit a big home run tonight. He actually threw a big walk too. And we've seen it at times from Correa. But when Buxton's not in the lineup is so much more shallow. And you're really only looking to a handful of guys instead of 1 through 9 that it was at certain points of this year when Kirilloff and Lewis and everybody was healthy and looking good. That's not there right now. They're also not executing. They have, tonight is a really good example of that. It's a 4-4 game. You're in a position where in the 6th inning, exactly where you wanted to be, I think. You would have liked to keep the lead after 5, but that's an outcome you take 10 times out of 10 against the Dodgers. To be 4-4 in the 6th when you have a really rested bullpen, that's a fine spot to be against that Dodgers team. And Fulmer didn't execute his pitch on 0-2 to Chris Taylor with 2 outs. Griffin Jax didn't execute. Didn't get it done when the Twins were trailing 5-4. They need to execute. Sonny Gray didn't execute in the 5th inning. Guys who we know are good. We know Sonny Gray's good. We know Michael Fulmer's good. We know how good Griffin Jax has been this year. They need to execute. We know how good Carlos Correa can be. Doesn't execute with runners in scoring position basically all season long. That's another part of this. And then just their rhythm. They have no rhythm. They had a rhythm early in the season. Like they were finding different ways to win. They were winning multiple games in a row. They were in a rhythm. The rotation was in a rhythm together. Everybody was kind of pitching well. The lineup was clicking. They were playing off of each other. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. And they haven't had that rhythm for months. They lack rhythm. I thought maybe we were going to see it in the Toronto series. They won 2 games in a row. They had another chance to win Sunday. I thought they were going to come out in this Dodger series, maybe kind of start to get on a roll. And they basically lost all the momentum they got from the Jays series. And maybe momentum is just a fallacy. Like, I'm not kind of on the border with that. I think momentum, sometimes you can really feel it. And other times I think people make it up and say, well, they have the momentum. And then all of a sudden they don't. They lost whatever they had coming out of that Toronto series. So those are the big reasons. Like, those are the 5: injuries, ineffectiveness, Joe Ryan, Carlos Correa, lack of depth, the execution, and the lack of rhythm. That's why they haven't performed well over the last couple months. But again, they're a game out of first place, and they're 30-37 in their last 67 games. They're going to have to earn this thing. I said it last night. They're going to have to earn this. Like, this is not going to be handed to them. They need to start winning. You can't rely on the Guardians and White Sox. I agree with that. You can't just rely on them to lose. You need to start winning. But thank goodness they're in the Central. If they weren't in the Central, they'd be gone. They'd be an afterthought because they would have lost a lot more games, I think, than they have to this point as well, because their schedule's light. It's a light schedule. I'm not saying the Twins are done. I'm not saying the Twins are bad. They need to turn it around, though. Like, they need to have a really, really good next 10 games. They need to win 6 or 7. I can accept 6. I really would like 7 of the next 10. They need to find a way to do that. Pitch better, execute, bring the bats. Somebody get it done. Like Tim Beckham DHing, that ain't going to do it. Somebody's got to get it done. Hopefully Buck is back this weekend in Anaheim. I believe he will be, and they're going to try to get him into the field. So, man, this is the low point for the 2022 Twins. They've had a few this year, but to me right now, because of where they're standing, because of how they look, and because of how dinged up they are, this is the low point of the season. And there's hopes that into September, you're going to get Kenta Maeda back. You're going to get Bailey Ober back. You're going to get Trevor Larnach back. You're going to get Josh Winder back. But right now, they don't have those guys, and they won't have them for the remainder of the month. So they need to get it done with the group they have. They have enough on hand to get it done. And they need to get it done over the next 10 games against the Angels, Royals, and Rangers, with 7 of those at home. If the Twins do not win this division, if the Twins do not make the playoffs, I think the two biggest things we'll look at the end of the year when I'm evaluating the season, because I will do that. I love doing it. I love doing it at the end of the year. I've done it now 3 times or whatever. We'll evaluate. I'll look at this stretch, honestly. I think this stretch will have a say in it. Like, they go 5-5 or 4-6. I think this is a stretch we'll look back on as one that, like, doomed them in the second half. I think the second thing is I will look at the head-to-head match. And if they don't win this division, they don't make the playoffs, chances are they did not win those head-to-head matchups down the stretch. They didn't win a majority of those, and that's why they didn't win the division. But these games, to me, I mean, they're not as important as the head-to-heads, but they're pretty dang close. Like, these are games you need to have. These are games you need to win. And they have 10 of them here coming up. I think the Rangers are the best team of those 3, so I'm glad that the Rangers series is at home. I think the worst team of the 3 right now is Kansas City, and that's at home. I think the Angels are a close second, though. I think they're horrific outside of Ohtani. They're really not good. So this sets up nicely for the Twins. 7 out of the next 10 at home against 3 losing teams that, on average, are 70-win teams this year. Let's see how the Twins pull it together. Thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen today on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I'll make your second listen to the Locked On MLB Podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening to the Locked On Twins podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Go Twins! Keep your chin up.